Okay, welcome to lesson 3 for IM Algebra 2. When we are looking at 3.1, when you have a which one doesn't belong, there is always a reason for each one to not belong, so you're never going to be wrong in which one you choose. If you look at A, this one is not written in standard form. Reminder of our vocab, standard form is when you write your highest exponent first, so your degree term, then your next highest, followed by your next highest, all the way down until you get to your constant. So this would be standard form. For C, it has this exponent that is a fraction, but it is written in standard form. For future reference, when you have a fractional exponent, that is the same as seeing something like this, and you are going to need this in a later Algebra 2 topic. For B, it is in standard form. You have this decimals. For D, you have a decimal. You don't have a constant, so you could write +0 as your constant. You also have a degree of 5. Little review of vocab. Your degree is your highest exponent, which when it's written in standard form is this first exponent you see. Your constant is the number without a variable, so this one's constant is 4, which should be the last number if it's written in standard form. And your leading coefficient is the number in front of your degree term. So degree is 4, leading coefficient's 2. Degree is 5, leading coefficient is 1. Degree is 3, leading coefficient also 1. Degree is 2, leading coefficient also 1. So another thing you could choose is B is different because the leading coefficient is not 1. Okay. Again, these are just examples. You definitely have more correct responses you could say. 3.2 is a card sort, so I'm not going to go through that one. 3.3, there are multiple different correct answers you could use. As long as you are meeting the requirements, it should be okay. This first degree means that your exponent is going to be 1. So you could write that as x to the first or just plain x. Those are both the same thing. This vertical axis intercept, this is also your y-intercept, or you could say that's your constant. Those two words are going to define the same thing. As long as your equation has a degree of 1 and you cross at 8, that's fine. You could say it's like 3x plus 8. You could say negative 2x plus 8. So you can keep going. You can use any number in front of x that you want as long as your constant is 8. Second degree polynomial is going to be an x squared. Only positive y values. You could write this like x plus 2, x plus 10. Because in standard form, this would be x squared plus 12x plus 20. This is going to work because your leading coefficient needs to be positive. So I'm going to write that you have to have a positive leading coefficient, and your constant needs to be 0 or above. As long as you are meeting that criteria, you are good to go. You can write it in factored form or standard form. If you write it in factored form, both of your numbers need to be positive. If you're writing it in standard form, your constant needs to be 0 or above with your positive leading coefficient and a degree of x2. Okay. Similarly, second degree here is going to be x squared. Contains the point 0, negative 9 because this is your x and this is your y. This is also your y-intercept, aka your constant. So you can treat it similarly. You can say x squared minus x minus 9. You could say 3x squared minus 9. You can do any combination. You can do it in factored form, but when you do that, you need to make sure that your numbers are going to multiply to this negative 9. So whatever you put here and whatever you put here need to multiply to make negative 9. The third degree polynomial function, I am so sorry, you're going to hear my baby cry in the background. This horizontal axis is your x-axis. And more than once just means there's more than one zero. So you're gonna have x cubed. That either means you're gonna have 3 factors, or you can have something squared and one more factor. As long as they're not the same numbers, you're good. You could also write it as standard with x cubed minus 2x squared plus x minus 9, or something along those lines. The 4th degree or higher means x to the 4th or any number plus, so you could say x to the 10th, whatever you want. Never crosses the horizontal axis means that you're going to want an even degree, because the even degrees make this U shape. That's what there's a positive leading coefficient. This is when there's a negative leading coefficient. And it never crosses the horizontal axis, means that you are going to want multiplicities, which you haven't learned yet, or degrees that are even so it doesn't cross. So you could say x to the 4th plus 1, because that graph would look like this. You could say negative x to the 6th minus 2. That graph would look something like this. So as long as you have this U shape and you are not crossing the y, the horizontal, so the x-axis, you are good to go. I would especially focus on these. These are similar, and a lot of the degrees are going to have a similar shape. X squared has a similar shape to x 4th, x cubed will have a similar shape to x 5th, etc. Okay, lesson 3 practice problems. All points where a relative minimum occur. A relative minimum, this relative does not mean the lowest it's ever going to go. So we do not have to worry about this, because this would be like an absolute minimum as it keeps going down and down. The relative, if you look, is going to happen in this section. It's going to happen in this section. I think of a minimum as being at the bottom of a hill. So looking at the bottom of this hill is going to be B, because I come down and I go back up. E, I'm coming down, also going back up. H is not going to count because it's not going back up and it continues, and this would be more along the lines of the absolute minimum instead of relative. In number 2, just a reminder that this 22nd degree polynomial means you're going to have x to the 22nd. You rewrite the rest of your equation. And if you want to, you can put any number you want right here as long as it's not 0, because one term just means one number with your variable, and this is your highest degree, so that is, your highest exponent, which is your degree term. For question 3, which is on the next page, you want to identify the degree, leading coefficient, and constant for each of these. When you do this, if you double check that they're written in standard form, which the first 2 are, you can go with the degree being your highest exponent, so your degree is 3. So this is our degree. The leading coefficient is a number in front, which is going to be 1 in this case. And then your constant is your number without a variable. We repeat that process. Your degree is your highest exponent. Your leading coefficient is a number in front of that. And your constant is the number without a variable. Reminder, if there is no constant, so no constant, the constant is 0. That doesn't happen in these, but just in case. This one, we need to switch these 2 terms to be in standard form. There is no positive sign right there, but it is automatically going to be positive because you don't see that negative. Okay. Here your degree is going to be 4, and you can find these without being in standard form, but when it's in standard form, degree is your first exponent, your leading coefficient is your first number. So this is your leading coefficient right here. And then this negative 4.4 There is no x, so this is your constant. And that's all you're doing for that.